Now begins part 2. For listeners just now tuning in, unemployed American journalist Jack Moody, staying at the Hotel Zion in Istanbul, had made friends with a Romanian colleague, Mr Popescu, fleeing fascist persecution in his home country. However, Popescu is still not free from molestation, as Moody has discovered that a mysterious figure was eavesdropping on their conversation. Worse, the appearance at the window of an undesirable-looking individual has caused Popescu to make excuses and flee the scene. Moody has resolved to explain these singular occurrences, if only to himself.
Even without any leads, I wasn't done with cigarette holder, but the clown with the bow tie was my first order of business. I'd been idle in the engine too long. It felt good to be back in gear, even if it didn't bring me any closer to gainful employment. I was a reporter, after all, whatever those scheming bastards of the Globe chose to believe, and I was hot on the track of a story, even if it didn't look like there'd be anyone to tell it to. Popescu had said we were both journalists, and old Pa Webster would probably say he was right, but he was a journalist. I was a reporter. A journalist needs to tell the big truths. A reporter just needs to know the little ones. Specifically, I needed to know what there was between Popescu and the little creep in the window. And if any of you think it was none of my business, well, you try hanging around a foreign city, alone, without a job, or any company but the bottle, and see what it does to your well-bred discretion. So I took to keeping one eye quietly fixed on Popescu, and we got to be good friends. I had a suspicion the twerp was a man of what they call regular habits, so I figured he'd come in at about the same time on the same day, or a week later. It was a shot in the dark, but it hit pay dirt, if you don't object to a little mixed metaphor between friends. Popescu and I were sitting talking, but I got to the table first, and took his usual seat so that he had to sit facing away from the window. I thought he seemed annoyed, or maybe worried, but he passed it off as no big deal. And I'd have almost bought it, except that he couldn't stop himself from taking a look-see over his shoulder every few minutes. In the end, though, the mountain came to Mohammed, as they say in those parts, though this particular creep was more in the way of a molehill. I first caught sight of him in the window when I was up at the bar ordering. By the time I'd gotten back to the table, he and Popescu were speaking in low, urgent tones in what I think must have been Hungarian, which ain't even in the same ballpark as anything I speak. It looked like I had them dead to rights and was going to get some long-awaited answers.
I don't know who you are, and I don't care. Get out of here and stop bothering my guests, or I'll have the police in after you.
Oh, I apologize. I'll leave you right away.
She'd blown my week of hard work. I didn't think our little friend would appreciate the notice. He had a kind of cockroach quality to his personality that seemed to suggest that what would happen if any kind of light was turned on him. I was in a pretty rotten mood when I went up to my room, and it didn't improve any when I got there. The place had been searched, and expertly. None of this amateur throwing things on the floor business. The guy who did it knew his job. Everything had been put back almost exactly as it was. Only a couple of little things gave it away. In fact, far as I could tell, the guy only made one mistake. But it was one of the classics. Old as Sherlock. He'd left a cigarette butt on the floor in the corner. If this was a radio serial, no one would have bought it. But I'd made my living writing about other people's rookie mistakes, too long not to believe in them. Maybe I'm just a pushover for not seeing a conspiracy and everything, but I think I'm too damn cynical to be paranoid. The cigarette itself, though, was worth describing. For a start, it was expensive. The window was shut, and you could still smell the smoke from it in the room, and it made the gaspers I smoked seem like dried camel dung. Jet black, too, not white. Not many of those around. I'd know them if I saw them again, or smelled them. I was sure of that much. Next morning, I saw Popescu going out a little early and decided to follow him. I probably wouldn't have bothered. I don't sleep much, but I'm no early bird either, except that the hour was so unusual, only 5:30, and he was walking like a man with something to hide. I'd have missed the episode entirely, but I'd had a bit too much to drink the night before, and while the stuff puts you right to sleep, it doesn't keep you there too well. Fortunately or unfortunately, my curiosity got the better of my hangover, and there I was a little while later breathing the cool but not over-fragrant air of dawn in the old Byzantine Hippodrome, what the Turks are now calling the Sultan Ahmet Square, having the shock of my life.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
That concludes this, the first episode of The City of Stones. Taken at the Ebb was written by Zachary Langlois. It was produced by Zachary Langlois and Elise Dominion. The part of Jack Moody was played by Justin Miller. The part of Sonia Fine was played by Ashley Hamill. The part of Ion Popescu was played by Zachary Langlois. Taken at the Ebb was recorded at the WHUS studio with the indispensable assistance of Nick Stevens. Be sure to tune in next time for our thrilling second episode, Serpent's Collar.